Welcome. I'm so glad that you can join me here today. 184, lesson 160, from pages 504 to 505. And my name is Reverend Maria Arvanitides. This is an excerpt from the audio-visual version of my novel that consists of 852 pages. And from this excerpt here today, The Sovereign Light, named after my ministry, and the book is A Course in Metaphysical Spirituality. Won't you join me for these following 2 pages to sample through if you haven't done so already? It's a place where you can find the stillness within yourself and with your mind, to open your heart and take a few deep breaths in and out, and just find that center point of stillness. You will know it, you will feel it just sinking in. That place from within that we call home, that we come back to within our heart. And feel it open with every deep breath that you take in. And you can opt to have your eyes closed or open. And today, just listen in and see what you get. Where the fragmented self becomes overwhelmed, the Holy Spirit can bring closer to unite, and with wholesome, sovereign light for all its parts to be of one. And with that said, won't you join me with this affirmation, and you can repeat it, follow along, listen in, or say it out loud with me. Won't you join me? Sounds good? And take a few deep breaths in and out. And ready? Sounds good. Confirm with these words the following, and really feel in a commanding presence that you accept and allow for these words to process through and activate throughout your day. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. All that has been taught as theory from the minds of the many, the self must learn to make useful. And I must admit, it is very disconnecting because it's not a holistic approach to our educational system, the way it has been implemented and the way it has been offered to us is a very disconnecting way of applying and the theory that comes with it. The more we educate and become degrees and masters and all these things is the total opposite. It, in a way that it dumbs us, it complicates things, it further disconnects us from the truth. And we have to figure it out for ourselves through experience of life and not through others, what really stands by our truth and authenticity. And how can we better to teach the next generation is by holistically applying slowly, not just in your face and then explain later. Slowly, just give hints to this and this. And why are we taking quantum physics? Why are we taking chemistry? Why are we taking biology? Why are we taking, and how does it apply to life rather than death and the non-living? And how do we apply these methods of agreement and opinions of theories? That how do we make use of them? And how is it if we don't feel them? If we don't feel them and we're just using the mind to process, it's a disconnecting service to us all. And with that, there is no connection, there is no empowerment, there's only control and enslavement. And the more we apply something of the unknown that feels good, the more others try to shut us down and criticize and ridicule and throw us off this course of empowerment to service others with and wake them up into their feeling senses. Rather, the whole healthcare system is all about that easy fix, that easy solution. Like, how many vaccines is it going to take? 123 before you can become transhuman? That is the hardest, the most going against and struggling against your true nature to become something that's so disconnected from the truth. And yet that's all there is of value, and the quick fixes that come with it, because it's very fear-based. And if that's the only interest you have in life, then you might as well be living in death. The dead are more alive than the living in that kind of awareness, existence. And so let us continue on and maybe shed some more truth that it cannot be any closer than what has been said. And the existing in thought or as an idea but not having a physical or concrete existence is not practical for the mind to regard as keeping. So, here we are again, to transcend and move beyond the knowable and reach out and be curious into the unknowable with love and the innocence of a child, like they would in their curiosity to learn, to feel, to experience. It will create a sense. This other way of interpreting it is the way we've been going in the reality and the realm of death and the death cult. It creates a sense of loss to feel for the self the many complexities of its physical limitations. And so, how many injections will it take, do you figure, before you enter into that transformation from this body to the next and recycle? How many is it going to take? And this transformation, that light and energetic body, it turns us into the physical solid reality that we think is real. And that's only the symptom. So, one sister is all sisters, and with love, no symbols are required to feel its meaning. And with that said, we haven't really been introduced to those elements and that reality of the matriarchal earth. It's not a sisterhood. It's the inverted pentacle of patriarchy called the Freemasons and the Brotherhood and all these things that are behind all the structure that is so important in our self-development. So this is the road we've been on. This is the path that's been paved for us. And for the most part, we don't even know. We think it's worshiping Christ or worshiping some other thing, and it's not. All religions have this idol worshiping path that goes in the reverse order, in the, call it what you want, good and bad, but to bring them together, we enter into this higher state when we blend them in, and we create a decahedron, to put it, to simplify it, because it's all about geometry, and this is how the light can enter through and process, and the structures that we work through. So far it's been very one-sided, and it's been very reverse and inverted, and this is the path that we've been on. We've totally dismissed when we speak of the root chakra, the actual pentacle that is this, and we've been looking and practicing this. Why? Okay, because there's money in it, because that's the whole economy is revolves around that structure, and it's missing the most important thing, and it's very off balance. So what would it be like to be living in a matriarchal sisterhood system? And it doesn't have to be that way either. Like I said, it could just blend the two and create a higher development. But within the root chakra that we're dealing with, this solid Maya matrix, the most important thing is not the physical. But if we want to make it in that way, yes, we will have to have another way of looking at it, looking at the other side. And so wherever there's enslavement, there's always the path of freedom. And that's how we learn to notice where freedom lies. And once we notice where the enslavement is, then we can understand and appreciate freedom and sovereignty, and the light that once was there to blind us has now awakened and empowering us with the truth. So we can use things for healing, or we can use things for weaponry, like everything's being used as right now, for weapons of mass destruction and poisoning and killing off everything, rather than appreciating the creator we are actually, if you want to imagine this gender being, spitting in their face for all that they have created. And that wasn't a recreation from our own interpretation that we are living through now. And yes, in the direction that everybody's going, it will be the mark of the beast. And yes, it will be a man-made God. Whereas before, it wasn't. And the emotional body is very, very important. Like I was mentioning before with the star tetrahedron. That is the most sacred of geometries that one can work through and process their emotional and mental transmutation. So much importance in all these tools that we can use to holistically apply and heal without ingesting anything or injecting or receiving, I don't know what it is, flying dicks through the sky or intercourse for procreation or the jab and all these other, again, this is an inverted brotherhood, masonry, whatever you want to call it. I suppose you can find the, hope within the most densest of places. And this is another thing that we can work on, this field of hope, which would be level 3. But nobody really wants to do the work to get to level 3 of the Merkaba. So I will keep going with this very basic level of teaching that covers just about everything on a multidimensional level, seeing that the first thing we enter into, well, the first stable, first of all, we have one point, that's one-dimensional. Then we have 2 points with a line that creates the 2-dimensional, and also the 3-dimensional. But then we get the most stable of geometrical configurations, which is the tetrahedron. And then from there is we go into the pentacle configuration, which is everything to do with the root chakra, with the solid, the elements that we create from within the ethers. Everything has to deal with all these religious symbols. Everything has to deal with the chakra system, and also the 7 bodies of man, if you will, and further, if you want to split them and compress them and expand on them, it's this force, this light that we're dealing with here. And so shall we continue? We can apply them as tools, and we can use them. But beyond the shamanistic levels, the pentacle and the Toltec Naguals and the native Indians, this is why it's not getting along with the Freemasonry side of things. But this is why we have the opposites and the polar attractions of the half of the circle, of the geometry that it creates. In order to get to the next God level of creation, into the emotional body that connects us to everything, this energetic, electrical magnetic field, it's to do with the star tetrahedron. So, and then we get into other levels, but the pentacle has everything to do with entering into the 5th dimensional reality, and this is within this earth. Okay, and this is from the root chakra that everything starts, and we get that kundalini surge and awakening. And so it continues on, and I went into a lot of depth that could be a little bit too advanced and might be confusing for some, but this is how we apply quantum physics, geometry, This is the first level of the magician, okay? And this is how we can apply the mastery. and then we can become ascended. No matter what, we can still ascend, and everything about our reality has to deal with the transcendence of our heart. We keep transcending and evolving. So, wow. That was really philosophical now, and perhaps too deep for the average person to really understand without having done any study. And not in the old things. Things are advancing really fast. There's a lot of disclosure and a lot of transparency right now that some people might that goes beyond and takes it to the next level of Einstein, for instance. The latest theories that have come up since 2018 or 19 that most of us aren't even up to date with, that link everything together. This is what it means to be in a multidimensional reality. It has to put everything together, and it's not just compartmentalizing it into a linear perspective of having to prove it, because it easily can be disproved, and then the inner critic comes along, and that within all of us, and shuts us down from trying to help you all in a holistic way of connecting and reintegrating all these things so that we may apply them as whole, as holy, sovereign beings. And let's continue. So, all that has been taught is theory from the minds of many. The self must learn to make useful. But how can it? When it's really like Darwin, for instance, survival. It's not about survival. It's about actually living life. It's not living it in the limitations of a little me ego perspective in the survival and competition and all these things. That's very third density level way of looking, and it's in the very fear base. And yes, that is in the lower chakras, but it doesn't have to, everything doesn't have to revolve around patriarchy. There's also the other side that we keep dismissing, the matriarchal side of things. So the existing in thought or as an idea, but not having a physical or concrete existence, is not practical for the mind to regard as keeping. Okay, so it's not, we're canceling, or we're bringing back the balance and canceling out all illusions, okay? This is how we integrate and we become whole. It's not about taking sides of, oh, one gender's better than the other, or this is what keeps us in the lower realities. This is something to help us transcend beyond that and hopefully get into the next level of the emotional body understanding and from transformation. And it's not just transformation. It's transmutation, transfiguration, and each level has its transcendence. And so it will create a sense of loss to feel for the self the many complexities of its physical limitations. Yes. You'll enter the dark night of the soul. Yes. You'll start noticing things that people say it's miracles, but you'll be living in a magical reality where you know that things are, you'll be more aware and understanding of light and the principles of light, and that it's not just the 4 levels of white light, also dark light. And dark light is what actually creates everything. And then from there, you see, and the word, the sound, the vibrations, I mean, we can only hear at certain levels. In the same principle, we can only see at different levels. And so when thoughts of the mind cannot find meaning to feel for love, it will instead grasp at the edges from within the gap of fear it has created. Look at the symbol of flesh, that is the self, and see the only one who can forever save it. That would be you, your perspective. In this vision, her love reflected in a form that can bring oneness to all who seek out to work through relationships clearly. So you might want to look at it as Mother, Father, God, or the very Wiccan perspective has everything to do with the Mother Earth, the feminine matriarchal that has been captured and compromised into, 6 months of the year you have to be enslaved, and the other 6 months of the year you can fulfill life and all these things. This is something, an agreement that we chose to sign up for, but we don't have to be engaged with it any longer. So seek for her hand and for thy own alike to help the many, that she may reflect to teach the light of the self with this love here and now. We're speaking of this earth. Okay, I had already mentioned it as, see her as a nucleus. She is a living, breathing entity, and we are like bacteria. Okay, and bacteria is very important, by the way. Some of us even make cheese from it, okay, like the blue cheese, and it's very important, even like with procreation. It's used in that sense as well, with the sperm and the and so it's a very important thing to realize that we are just like the bacteria, like the paramecium. We are exactly, or the protons. And when you look at the protons, protein, and what viruses are actually created for, they're just misplaced information that needs to be activated by that nucleus. It doesn't have to host off us. We're one with the earth. Anyway, hopefully that has somewhat helped you to connect the dots. I cannot take any sides or make any judgments, but this is something that will wake you up, if not agitate you to the point of anger or hatred, and then you can assess this hatred. I'd like to do some workshops and have a package going on this, similar to grief, how to process through hatred and work through it and heal yourself and the rest of humanity. And so look forward to that, those workshops that will be eventually coming up whenever I get the time to prioritize to do these things, because I start something and then I just kind of, okay, I have to get back to it at another date, because this all has to kind of finish first, this what I'm doing right now, going through this. And so let's continue on. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. So stay open. And the whole thing is about clearing the emotional body. And this is what hopefully this book will do in an all-around about way, without getting too deep and complicated. So be open with heart to allow for these many blessings to reach the self. Do not resist to make intense this beauty that can frighten to reject the moment. Allow for her to whisper songs of ancient melody, and that she has not forsaken this heavenly place from the self to be with again. From the time we become aware into this reality, we get disconnected from the mother and thrown into a patriarchal inverted system that was created through the brotherhood of many colonizations, one of them being the Masons, as you can tell and the other one. And so these symbols, I know you might, sometimes the Muslims have one symbol like this too, okay? But they have the waning of the moon connected with it, or the Turkish flag too. And that is showing that the only acceptance back into the patriarchal awareness would be that of the crone. And the crone, the kingdom of hell. What hell really is density. The further into density you go, and you're slow moving and things like this. And so, but yes, when we are compressed, we radiate the light out. Apparently through, this is quantum physics and science and what they have proven. And when we expand, we go into the learning, so we expand, and we can take in either more darkness to process through, or the light of the photons or whatever, and process that and expand. So this is what we do. We receive and we transmit, and so on and so forth. So I hope that you have a better understanding and a little bit more of a positive outlook to what viruses and bacteria really are. And when you look at it from a perspective of the earth being a nucleus, and just forget everything you've learned up till now with the old way of Darwin and physics, okay? That's something that has now actually been outdated, and we've moved on even past the theory of relativity, and we've extended it, and we've added more to it, and we've moved beyond even Einstein, for heaven's sakes, okay? This is where we're at. So be open, okay? Allow this awareness. Envision the most beautiful of sisters that the self has ever, and to see her in this way that it prefers most clearly. And the sisters is also the constellation in the heavens of the stars, the three sisters. But to deal with here, the sisterhood, the matriarchal, that's kind of in this book, bringing the balance from where it was off balance, and to help cancel and integrate. And yes, it actually, when you bring the two opposites and the poles together, there's no gap. So what you haven't done, what we're doing is we're canceling out illusion. It's all an illusion. So what we are most oppressed and all these things, we revolt naturally, or we do it in a sense where, it's an energetic balance is what it is. And so for that said, appreciate the earth and see her face, her hands and feet, and to what she might be wearing. Watch her smile and see familiar gestures that the self can remember. This can also have to do with the image of your higher self. And you can also be a man who's has a female higher self. So there's many variations. It doesn't have to be one way, one gender, okay? And most of all, it's not meant for idol worshiping, because that just follows into the same footsteps and role modeling the patriarchal system and trying to outdo it and all these things. No, this is forging the way through it in the most clearest of passages. And so just imagine the earth, okay? Watch her smile and see familiar gestures that the self can remember. Why am I saying this? Because the earth is the creator. Okay, so you want to say the sky is the creator, but there's so much truth into the sky as the creator, because it's in the unseen that everything is created. So yes, we go back into the native way of thinking again, the First Nations. So how does it feel? Does it bring sadness and tears of forgiveness? Giving, forgiving. We're letting go of the energy so it can be transmuted. Forgiveness is one of the very first basic and most important tools that we learn to use to work through the emotional body so that we may become clear and crystalline from carbon base when we have worked through all the shadows and the darkest night of the soul and all these things, and we can move beyond that. And so now, with eyes open, repeat the following affirmation. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. And the purpose for today's lesson is to remove all the symbols of fear from the one love that was never meant to be a foe. It was never meant to be the enemy. And so what is being outcasted, that's what causes all this animosity and the hatred. And yes, we have to, I believe it would be a great idea. What a great concept. There's many ways of dealing and workshops to work through grief, but have you even heard of any that work through hatred? And Lord knows we have more than enough of that to go around, and just transmute it. So I will leave you with today's affirmation and activation, and see what you make of it throughout the day. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. And I am at Humber Forest right now, wearing this shirt that says Builders and Dreamers from the hub that was given to me back in 2019. Builders and Dreamers. So it's probably showing it backwards. I'm so glad that you've enjoyed this space, this time, and share your presence in participating with this lesson and this day. And I look forward to seeing you again for Day 185, Lesson 161. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me. I will make peace with where I am and be open to the many blessings that surround me.